Texas faces yet another tough test in Ames on Saturday. How does the Iowa State offense produce top skill players? How does Heacock's defense frustrate opposing offenses? And which players do we need to look out for? And most importantly, can Texas put together a full game against a good team? As always, don't forget to pick up your new hat for the new season at Last Stand Hats. Use promo code TexasHomer, all caps, for 10% off your purchase at laststandhats.com. Can Texas leave a tough road environment with the upset win? Without further ado, let's get into it. This season felt like Iowa State's best shot to win the Big 12. They're senior-laden with a core group that has been on the field together for several years. But this season has been a total circus, and no one could have predicted the amount of chaos in the rankings for the entire sport. Matt Campbell has a fairly consistent offense with an upperclassman offensive line, a top receiver, a top running back, a top tight end, and a veteran quarterback. Yet it hasn't been a smooth year for the Cyclones. Brock Purdy has been frustrating to watch over the years for me personally. His freshman year was his best year, posting an overall offensive grade of 89.3, and he seemed destined to climb to the top of the league with very early NFL buzz, and he quickly garnered the gunslinger label. But as usual, you live by the gun and you die by the gun. He regressed in year 2 and year 3, graded at 79.8 and 78.9, losing a full 10 points in his overall grade. And I believe that was the result of trying to extinguish his gunslinger tendencies. Brock's freshman year, he led the entire Big 12 in big-time throw percentage at 8.3%, and he threw turnover-worthy plays on 3.8% of his throws. And his playmaking style was a bit volatile, but ultimately it produced twice as much good than bad. And QB coaches don't like volatility because you can't game plan random events or coach up flukes. And Brock Purdy appears to have lost his most unique trait while going through the college quarterback decision-making process. In year 2, he only threw big throws 4.2% of the time, while staying at that similar 3.6% turnover-worthy play percentage. So he's now half as likely to drop a bomb on you while being just as likely to throw an interception. In year 3, he now only makes big throws 3.4% of the time, and he has a similar 3.9% turnover-worthy play percentage. Brock Purdy is now officially more likely to throw a bad ball than a good ball. And in 2021, Brock only makes big throws 2.6% of the time, with a slight improvement in only throwing turnover-worthy balls 1.9% of the time. Brock shaved off 3/4 of his big-time throws and only shaved off about 1.5% of his turnover-worthy plays. By trying to settle Brock down and make him more of a game manager, you have diluted the trait that made him electric and hard to defend. Yes, he's less likely to throw an interception now, but he's also 4 times less likely to throw a big touchdown. And Purdy has posted his best grade since his freshman year at 81.4 overall this season, but it's still not close to the throwing success of his freshman year. Currently, Brock Purdy is the 4th overall graded passer in the Big 12, tied for 3rd in the Big 12 in adjusted completion percentage at 79.9%. But this stat is heavily influenced by the fact that the majority of his passes are short, easy completions, boosting his completion percentage overall. Brock Purdy is a good quarterback that could have been far better if not limited schematically by his coaches. He's entirely capable of moving the Iowa State offense and keeping them in games. But his offensive line hasn't been as solid as Iowa State was expecting, and Brock is forced to use his playmaking style. He's 3rd in the league in scramble attempts, but he has the 3rd lowest pressure to sack percentage, meaning Brock is great at avoiding pressures when the pocket does collapse. But ultimately, that's not a skill you want to display because it means your pass protection isn't solid in the first place. And you see these issues in the Iowa State offensive line. For instance, Iowa State has the 15th best sack rate on standard downs, like 1st and 10 or 2nd and 5. But once Iowa State gets behind the chains, their passing down sack rate is now 44th in the nation. And the struggles in the pass game are actually a direct result of their run game. The offensive line ranks 89th in the nation for average line yards, meaning their run blocking is not consistently effective. And this lack of consistent running forces Iowa State behind the chains. This allows the Iowa State pass blocking unit to face tougher circumstances that leads to more mistakes. And those mistakes lead to Brock Purdy scrambling more. Every single thing in football is connected and it influences the other pieces. That's why one mistake in the run game on early downs leads to bigger mistakes in the pass game later on. Currently, Iowa State is ranked 8th out of 10 in run blocking and 6th out of 10 in pass blocking. And that's why Iowa State hasn't been able to capitalize on a well built roster on the offensive side of the ball. In the run game, center Colin Newell is the 8th ranked run center. Left guard Trevor Downing is the 8th ranked run guard. Left tackle Gerard Hufford is the 16th ranked run tackle in the Big 12, followed by right tackle Derek Schweiger at 17th, and right guard Daryl Simmons is the 19th ranked run blocking guard. And due to the lack of any top 5 O line talents, Iowa State has the 7th ranked rushing offense in the Big 12, and they're 52nd in the nation for total rushing offense. And this is surprising to most fans because we consistently hear about Brees Hall's dominance. And Brees Hall still makes it work despite the lack of help up front. He still leads the Big 12 in touchdowns and first downs, and he actually leads the Big 12 in yards as well. But this doesn't have the ring to it most think. He's consistently first in attempts, and it's the same this year. Most yards with the most attempts means very little, and this is an example of being tricked by volume. If a player had the most yards on the fourth most attempts, then that would be a very important distinction. His yards per attempt actually tell a more accurate story. Brees is averaging 5.4 yards per carry for 8th in the Big 12, with an overall rushing grade ranked 8th in the league. Brees had the most touches in college football last year, leading to having the most yards. He has the 6th most attempts this year in all of college football, and 4 of the 5 players with more attempts than Brees have more yards than Brees, displaying that effectiveness and volume are not the same thing. But he is heavily utilized, so he's great at having those sneaky 100-yard plus games consistently, and Iowa State uses him effectively at the goal line. And you will always have to be aware of Brees, and it's a foregone conclusion that he'll put up points against most defenses. But he is not this running juggernaut people claim that simply look at his stats without realizing he is given more opportunities than any other running back year after year. So am I implying that Brees is a fraud? Absolutely not, and that would be a super dumb thing to say. But he is a great example of how misreading stats can create an exaggerated view of a player's contributions. He's still an awesome running back that is going to give the 118th ranked rushing defense at Texas a lot of problems. And he's most likely to hit the far left or the far right hole off the tight end's outside hip. This outside zone running focus is effective in tiring out the defensive line and the linebacking cores through constant lateral movement. Baylor's running game aimed to do the same thing. But now let's talk about the pass game. The offensive line does improve in pass blocking ability. Trevor Downing is the 5th ranked pass blocking guard. Center Colin Newell is the 7th ranked pass blocking center. Derek Schweiger is the 14th ranked tackle. Hufford is the 15th ranked tackle, with 19th ranked pass blocking guard Daryl Simmons rounding out the group. But they are not performing at their projected ceiling. Iowa State holds the 6th ranked pass blocking offensive line. But due to Brock's improv, Brees Hall, Charlie Kohler, Xavier Hutchinson, they are able to be the 4th best passing team in the Big 12. And you'll see a common theme with Campbell's offense. He picks his number 1 player in the running back room. He picks his number 1 receiver in the receiving room, and he picks his number 1 player in the tight end room. And then he uses them all ad nauseum, and he will not stop finding ways to put the ball in their hands. And it's super hard to shut them down in totality. If Brees gets stops, throw to Hutchinson or Kohler. And if the pass isn't there, run Brees. They always have a player to turn to in a time of need, and it's difficult to game plan for. Xavier Hutchinson is the number 1 graded wide receiver in the Big 12, and following that common theme, he also leads the Big 12 in targets at 63. He boasts the 4th ranked reception percentage at 83%, so he's very reliable. And Campbell prefers to use Hutchinson in that short to intermediate range. In fact, Hutchinson only has 3 deep targets on the year. He's most effective in the red zone or on the goal line, and he can operate well in little space due to his technique. He is force-fed like all the other offensive skill players, so our corners will have to deal with him all night, and I expect him to score some points as well against the 74th ranked passing defense in Texas. Number 2 receiver Tariq Milton is their deep threat, holding the most deep targets on the team at 7. He's Iowa State's speed receiver, and he can be used to take the top off defenses, or he can create yards after the catch on short throws. And he's a versatile player, spending about half of his time out wide and the other half in the slot. While Xavier Hutchinson is their clear number 1 receiver, Campbell can do more fun things with Milton due to his speed and versatility. Any attempt to blanket Hutchinson results in targets for Milton. But the second most targeted receiver on Iowa State is actually tight end Charlie Kohler. Kohler is an excellent tight end, ranking first in tight end targets, surprise, surprise, third in reception percentage, and second in overall receiving. He's classified as a tight end, but he's truly just a big receiver. He only plays on the line 32% of his snaps. He is in the slot or out wide the remainder of the time. And they are constantly matchup hunting for Kohler. And if you put that small linebacker or nickel on him, then they're going to throw it up. Kohler is absolutely the most utilized receiving tight end in the league, having 18 more targets than the next tight end. And Kohler is somewhat effective in the blocking game, but Campbell prefers tight end Chase Allen more for this type of work. And Allen is solid, ranking as the 6th run blocking tight end and the 10th ranked pass blocking tight end. And overall, even with all the talent on the Iowa State offense, they are not as effective as they should be, providing opportunities for good defenses to get the win. But here's the catch: Texas objectively does not have a good defense. So while there are cracks in the armor to exploit, I don't know if Texas will be the one to capitalize on that. But now let's explore the Iowa State defense, which is far more consistent. First, Iowa State has a very well known, influential defensive scheme. It's that drop 8, 3 high safety look. And what's important to know is this is the same style of defense that Arkansas often employs. Sarkisian struggled with Arkansas early last year at Alabama. We had a straight up bad game plan for the same defense during non conference earlier this year. And now we will be presented with the same defense a third time at night in Ames. And if the coaches trot out the same game plan against this defense, I'll be taking my faith shaken, not stirred. Drop 8 makes throwing harder by adding an extra coverage defender, and this increases the chances quarterbacks hold the ball waiting on that receiver to find a void in the zone. And this waiting is tough on an offensive line, and it generally leads to good results on the pass rush. Drop 8 is designed to slow the quarterback, and it works. The key to beating drop 8 coverage is quick reads, throwing the ball with anticipation into the voided zone before the wide receiver even gets there. And due to having a 3-man front, the safeties must get involved in the run game, or else there are open gaps, and this forces those safeties closer to the line. This provides deep opportunities for speed receivers especially, but Iowa State does have the second-ranked coverage unit in the Big 12, so putting 8 players consistently in coverage is working out, and that's why you're seeing this defense being adopted throughout college football. Their best coverage defenders are the linebackers. Eric Horn is ranked 3rd, Jay Kumel is ranked 4th, Gary Vaughn is ranked 6th, Orion Vance is 13th, and Mike Rose is at 18th, meaning that throwing quickly inside should be tougher than it already has been. The defensive backs have solid production with Kamani King ranked 7th, Isheem Young ranked 8th, Anthony Johnson Jr. at 9th, and Craig McDonald at 11th. But they do struggle with depth, with corner Datrone Young and TJ Tampa ranked as the 23rd and 31st coverage corners. And safety Greg Eisworth is ranked 25th. But Iowa State's 3-safety look provides them more coverage versatility. They can easily go into man, cover 2, cover 3, and quarters from this look. So don't assume you get the same look out of them pre-snap and post-snap. And it's hard on quarterbacks to quickly decipher what they are seeing because the defense can morph into any look post-snap. If you are simply using pre-snap reads as a quarterback to make your decisions, then Iowa State will generate turnovers. But the run defense is also second ranked overall. Defensive tackle Iyoma Uwazurike is the 3rd ranked run stopping tackle. Defensive end Zach Peterson is 12th. Linebacker Mike Rose is the 1st graded run stopper in the Big 12, backed up by 7th ranked Gary Vaughn, 10th ranked Jay Kumel, and 13th ranked Orion Vance. The 3-down linemen look plug up as many gaps as possible so the linebackers can do the bulk of the heavy lifting. But their defensive backs shine most in the run game. Corner Datron Young is the 3rd run-stopping corner in the league. Craig McDonald is the 5th run-stopping safety. And safety Greg Eisworth is at 6th, and Isheem Young is at 9th. The Texas run game has to get through the 2nd and 3rd levels if we want to see consistent rushing success. And rounding out an impressively consistent defense, they are ranked 2nd in the league for the pass rush as well. Edge Will McDonald is the 4th ranked pass rushing end, and defensive tackle Iyoma Uwazurike is 8th, and the linebacking core once again impresses with Orion Vance graded as the 4th best pass rushing linebacker. Mike Rose is 7th, and Jay Kumel is 10th. Overall, this is a very solid defense, and they're second in the league in generating havoc plays like interceptions, fumbles, and deflections. And on top of that, they use a tricky defensive scheme that frustrates passers and gives the illusion of a light box in the run game. And if Texas stays ahead of schedule, rarely forcing Casey into clear passing situations, then this offense has moved well. But the blueprint is out on Texas. Stack the box to stop Bajan and dare Texas to beat them in the pass game. And if we look at stats from just the conference play and we use adjusted completion percentage, meaning we get rid of all the wide receiver drops, Casey is completing at 71.1%, ranking 10th out of 11 Big 12 quarterbacks. Accuracy is key against drop 8, and Casey will need to play far above his current stat line to secure the win, since Bajan will likely be limited once again due to the defensive scheme. And as far as who wins or who loses, both these teams struggle with offensive consistency, and I think the winner will be the one that hurts themselves the least. Thanks for hanging out. Watch more of my videos here, and like, subscribe, and share if you'd like to support quality Texas content. As always, hook 'em.